Hello everyone, welcome to APL Tutorials. I'm here with a new chapter, The Feathered Friend, written by Arthur C. Clarke. This is a very interesting story of a boy and a canary. So, without any delay, let's begin with it. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been a regulation that forbids one to keep pets in a space station. Even had such a rule had existed, I am quite certain that Sven Olsen would have ignored it. Now, here we get to know that, to the best of my knowledge, means the author's knowledge. There's never been a regulation that forbids. Forbids means which doesn't allow, which does not allow to keep pets in the space station. Even if there was such a rule, Olsen would have ignored it. That's what he's trying to say. Now, here we get to know of a person named that is Sven Olsen. Don't ask me why Sven wanted a pet or why he chose the one he did. Now, the author is saying that don't ask me why he wanted it or what was the reason exact behind it. But I don't know why he chose it, but he carried that pet. I'm not a psychologist, but I must admit that his selection was very sensible. Now, here, the author is saying that I'm not a psychologist, but his selection was perfect, was very sensible. He didn't take it for granted. It was very sensible of him that he took this pet. Clarabelle waited practically nothing. Her food requirements were very infinitesimal, and she was not worried as most animals would have been by the absence of gravity. Now, Clarabelle, we come to know about this small little bird. This is a bird, Clarabelle. Actually, Clarabelle means something very bright and beautiful looking, is known as Clarabelle. But the actual name of the bird here is canary. Canary. Okay. So now they are describing it as Clarabelle. Soon the name will change. Okay. Now this Clarabelle practically weighed nothing. She didn't had such as weight like 40 kgs, 70 kgs. No, it was very less, not even a kilo. And her food requirements also were not as much as a human because she weighed nothing, so her food requirements were also very less. Uh, Infinitesimal means very tiny. She was not worried. Now they are going to space. So, space, there's no gravity, there's no gravity in the space, as we all know. You float in space. So, she was not worried. This Claribel was not worried that how will I survive, and all those things didn't come to her mind. She was a very relaxed because the other animals were very worried about it by the absence of gravity. I first became aware that Claribel was a boy when I was sitting in the little cubby hall, laughingly called my office, checking through my lists of technical stores to decide what items would be running out of next. I first became aware that Claribel was a Boyd. A Boyd means with them. Claribel was with them. And the author was sitting in his little cubby hall. Cubby hall means a small storage area which is there, that is known as a cubby hole. Laughingly called my office. Now this cubby hall was known as his office. Checking through my list of technical stores to decide what items would be running out of next. Mm, Items would be running out of rest means what items now they are going to face shortage of. Running means here, running out of means uh, falling short of. When I heard the musical whistles behind my ear, I assumed that it had come over the station intercom and waited for the announcement of follow. It didn't. Instead, okay, now the author heard the musical whistles behind his ears. Behind the ear, he heard that musical whistles. And he thought that it came from the station intercom. You know what's an intercom? This is the canary or the bird we are going to look at, and this is the intercom. This small phone sort of things are given, and from that directly the voice comes. No ring, no, you can't keep the ringtone. Directly the voice comes of the person. See this canary, it weighs nothing, not even a kilo, and it's a beautiful yellow bird. It didn't. Instead, there was a long and involved pattern of melody that made me look up with such a start that I forgot all about angle beam just behind my head. The intercom was so loud that the author forgot that this musical melody was coming from behind. When the stars had ceased to explode before my eyes, I had first view of Claribel. Angle beam means a sharp from that the sound which is coming from a sharp corner, sound coming out from sharp corner. I had my first view of Claribel. Now, when he had his first view of Claribel, how did he have the first view of Claribel? That all. If the question comes to describe all these things, that how did the author had the first view of Claribel, you need to write all the 4 5 lines which I read just now. She was a small yellow canary hanging in the air as motionless as a hummingbird. She was a small canary. Okay, this is a canary itself, which I'm showing you right now. Okay, she was a small motionless. Now here they've described how Claribel or the canary looked. Small yellow canary hanging in the air as motionless as a hummingbird. Hummingbird, why they've described here as a hummingbird is because when a hummingbird is there, the hummingbird's wings, the flaps of the wings are in thousands per minute or per second, which is why they've described here as hummingbird. Actually, the hummingbird flaps its wings 70 times. That's why here they've particularly described like hummingbird. And with much less effort, for her wings were quietly folded along her sides. Now here she now in this picture she's sitting here, and her wings are folded quietly without any motion. Okay, that's what they're trying to say here. We stared at each other for a minute. Who? Who both? The canary and the author. Then, before I had quite discovered my wits, which means, mm, okay, my wits, she did a curious kind of backward loop and departed with a few leisurely flicks. uh, when he recovered his wits, wits means when he came back to, wits means senses. When the author came back to his senses, that time he was recovered. She did a curious kind of backward loop and departed with a few leisurely flicks. Departed means flew away, and leisurely means relaxedly. Flicks means quick movements. She flew away, and she was uh, relaxedly, quickly making movements. Okay. It was quite obvious that she'd already learned how to operate in the absence of gravity and did not believe in doing unnecessary work. Swain did didn't confess to her ownership for several days. And by the time it no longer mattered because Caribou was a general pet. Confess meant he did not accept it, he denied it. That no. But after several days, mm, it didn't matter because why it didn't matter? Because Caribou was a general pet. This can come for give reasons, this question. Why it didn't matter much? Because Caribou was a general pet. He had smuggled her up on last ferry from Earth when he came back from leave, partly he claimed out of sheer scientific curiosity. He smuggled means it was like he illegally bought a Caribou up on the last ferry. Ferry means a vehicle that is bought up to space station from Earth to space station up to. He wanted to see just how a bird would operate when it had no weight, but could still use its wings. He was just wondering that he just wanted to see that he was. It was his something that yeah, I want to see this. You feel like when you're seeing a movie, when your friend is going to see a movie, then you feel like yeah, even I want to see this. The same way he felt it, Sven. Clarabelle thrived and grew fat. Thrive means she became strong and she was doing very well and grew fat. On the whole, we had little trouble cancelling our unauthorized guest from when VIPs from Earth came visiting. Counseling means hiding. Here, counseling is basically referred to like hiding this Clarabelle somewhere. Unauthorized means unofficial guest. When VIPs from Earth came visiting, VIPs means very important persons. A space station has more hiding places than you can count. The only problem was that Caribou got rather noisy when she was upset, and we sometimes had to think fast to explain the curious pips and whistles that came from shafts and storage spaces. Here they are trying to say that a space station has many places to hide because everything is floating. So when and here they are describing the quality of Clarabelle that when she got upset she made some noise, and these people had to quickly explain that why is she making noise, what noise is coming, because this was not a legal thing, this was not authorized that a pet is allowed in a space station, especially a bird. So that's all for today. Meet you in the next session with we'll need at least more 2 to 3 parts to complete this chapter, and then we'll be done with it. So till then, study well and keep watching APL Tutorials, a journey to excellence.